Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In this one we're going to go over the NFL for Sunday, August the 17th, and we're going to include August the 18th, Monday, the one game on Monday. We're going to include that in this one, and we're going to read the odds real quick. I'm going to teach you how to read the odds real quick, what to go by, and basic knowledge on how to get results. Join the Patreon, link is in the description and in the video, and let's get started. First game is between the Jaguars and the Saints. Jaguars open on the money line, minus 154, plus 130 for the Saints. 2.5 point spread favoring the Jaguars on the road, minus 120 is their cost. Home team Saints, 2.5 point underdogs at minus 102 cost. Over under is at 40.5 points. Minus 110 cost even there. Let's look at the splits and where that is going. 74% of the betting going with Jacksonville. 45% of the money going with Jacksonville. 26% of the betting going with New Orleans. 55% of the money going with New Orleans on the money line, that is. Spread looks like this. 49 and 51% betting going with Jacksonville and New Orleans respectively. 46% and 54% going with Jacksonville and New Orleans respectively on the money, on the spread. Over under. Over is dominating with 85% of the betting and 76% of the money going over. Now let's see where we are going here, what this gives. This 74 percentile going with Jacksonville. Only 45% of the money they are getting, even though they're getting 74% of the betting. They're above this minus 150 threshold. You always feel confident about a team that is above that minus 150 threshold, and they're leading in the betting. But they're not leading in the money, and that's critical. 55% of the money going with the New Orleans Saints at plus 130. Now, whenever you get teams that are around that minus 130 range, they're always a risky bet. But this is plus 130. Plus 130s hit more so than the minus 130s because the plus 130s usually have a much lower percentage of the money by the time the game kicks off. More than likely, Jacksonville could get more of the money depending on what news and announcements come out on who's going to play in or whatnot. 55% of the money going with New Orleans. That could flip. 55% going with Jacksonville and 45% going with New Orleans. And with 154 here, they're above that minus 150 threshold. And this spread, minus 120 here. Jacksonville looks like they could take this across the board despite being lower on the money line and the spread. But that minus 120 is a huge indicator if that is to hold up. If it is to hold up. If not, go with the Saints across the board. Now the over is dominating this one. 40.5 points in this game. I would join the public and go with that over. Only as it currently stands is 76 percentile of the money, 85% of the betting going over. And the minus 110 even cost. Not much to go by there, but what it is to go by when over is that when the costs are even at minus 110 and that over is getting most of the betting and the money, the over wins about 60% of the time. So join the public there and consider that only as it currently stands. Buffalo versus Chicago, the second game of the day, plus 124 for the Buffalo Bills and minus 146 for the Chicago Bears on the money line. They're just below that minus 150 threshold. And the spreads are like this, 2.5 points once again with the underdog on the road. The Bills at minus 106 cost, minus 2.5 cost at minus 105, and minus 115 costs going with the Bears on their spread. Over under is once again at 40.5 points, and minus 110 costs even there as well. Let's see where the money is going in this one. Once again, they're approaching this minus 150 threshold are the Bears, but the Bills minus 105 on the spread. That cost looks likely, but let's see where the money is going. 55% betting, 59% of the money going with the Bills, 45% of the betting, and 41% of the money going with Chicago. Spread looks like this: 72% of the betting going with the Bills, 82% of the money going with the Bills, 28% of the betting going with Chicago, and 18% of the betting of the money going with Chicago on the spread. Over under, once again, the over is dominating even more than the last game. 91% of the betting going over and 92% of the money going over. Now, let's see where these odds are going. 82% is going with this minus 105 costs right here. I would join the public and go with the Bills on the spread. But where it gets tricky is if you see Chicago, they are approaching. They have been increasing. They were at minus 140 yesterday, most of the day, minus 138, minus 136 opening the day yesterday. Now they're at minus 146. They're approaching that minus 150 threshold. If they get to that minus 150 threshold, go with Chicago across the board. I'm going to tell you that now. Go with Chicago across the board, because more than likely these odds will flip. Minus 105 will go here, minus 115 will go here. So, but as it currently is set up, the Bills look decent across the board right now, but approaching game time, if the Bears approach this minus 150 threshold, go with the Bears in this one. Over under 40.5 at minus 110 even cost, 91% betting here and 92% money here. I would join the public and go with that over. But yeah, let's go to the next one. Monday's game, Cincinnati versus Washington. Minus 166 money line going with the Bengals. Plus 140 going with Washington at home. 3-point spread favoring the Bengals at minus 110 cost. And the home team, 3-point underdogs at minus 110 cost. Over under 43.5 at minus 110 cost. Under 43.5 at minus 110 cost. Let's see where the money is going in this one. Cincinnati is above that minus 150 threshold, and the spreads and the totals are even at minus 110 cost. So let's see. Let's scroll down a bit. All right. 71% of the betting going with Cincinnati on the money line. 46% of the money going with Cincinnati on the money line. 29% of the betting going with Washington on the money line. 54% of the money going with Washington on the money line. 3-point spread. 55% of the betting going with Cincinnati. 60% of the money going with Cincinnati. 45% of the betting going with Washington. 32% of the money going with Washington on the spread. Spread's at 3 points. Even 110 for both teams. Spread favoring the Bengals, by the way. Over unders at 43 or 43.5, depending on the sports book you go with. 87% going over and 71% going over in this game. 43.5, that is a relatively high total, one of the highest totals so far this preseason. And I would join the public and go with that over only because it's so high. Only because it's so high. Minus 110 even cost is an indicator that more than likely you would join the public. Usually when it's minus 110, you would join the public when the totals are relatively higher than the other teams on that day or in that basically in that week. If it's NFL or something like that, that same week, if it's one of the highest totals and the cost is at minus 110, go with that. Whichever one the public is joining. Side with the public, basically, on the consensus. Minus 166 on the Bengals. 46% of the money. 71% of the betting. 68% of the money on the spread. Going with the Bengals. Once again, I would go with the Bengals across the board in this one. As long as this 3-point spread holds up at this minus 110 cost. They are above that minus 150 threshold. As long as that holds, pretty decent amount currently. Now, Washington could take this one if this 54% of the money goes beneath toward around 42%, 40%. And let's say their odds are at plus 140 right now. Let's say they go down to about plus 134 or plus 135, plus 132, something like that. Then they would take this one. Other than that, I would go with the Bengals in this one across the board. But yeah, these are my picks for the rest of the weekend. I will see you guys in the next video. You guys take care. Pray every day. Join the Patreon. Link is in the description and in the video.